Hi there, I'm going to talk today about my own writing process, which does not involve an outline. I am a die-hard pantser. Great term, doesn't mean what you think it means. It means I write by the seat of my pants. I work primarily from my ideas in my head, and I just see what happens. However, there are some tricks that you can do to write as a pantser, and if you're looking for a video on outlines, I'm not the person to go and give that to you. So there will be some links in the description to other videos, other writers who have done videos on outlines, and which might serve you better if you are not a pantser. If you are, or you're thinking that you might be, or you're not quite sure how the process works, that's what I'm here for. So usually how this starts is that I get an idea. For me, this happens usually when I can't write down an idea, or I'm nowhere near my computer, or I'm half asleep. Most of my great ideas come when I'm brushing my teeth, and that doesn't work so well. And that's just not very great for writing ideas down. But if an idea sticks with me, then it's usually a pretty good one. What happens is that it sits in my head for a while, and I sort of flesh it out in my head. I may write down a short intro, or scribble out a poem or some notes, and then leave it for a while. But if it's a good idea, what will happen is it'll come back to me, and I'll keep thinking about it, and then I'll mention it to somebody, and they'll say, oh, well, that would be cool if you could do it like this. And so that builds from there. When I actually end up writing a story, though, that idea unfolds. Let's say I start with a scenario thinking, okay, it would be really cool if a girl got sent back in time to, say, Shakespeare's time, and she was taller than everybody else, had better skin than everybody else, and spoke this weird modern English. What would happen? So you've got your idea, and then you come up with a list of potential problems that might happen. Okay, how do you explain the difference in language? She's Fae, and this magical modern English is some sort of variation of the fairies on regular English. Great. Okay, how do you explain the difference in height? That can fall into the same solution. So once I have an idea, and I've got this list of problems that could happen, what I do next is I will write an opening scene. Now, most of the time, these ideas, these opening scenes, are never going to be turned into a book. I only work on one brand new book idea at a time, and I have hundreds and hundreds of opening scenes and lines. My notebooks are filled with them, and many of these notebooks then have empty pages saying, okay, fill in the rest of the story. I write a lot of opening scenes. Now, however, if I'm going to take one of these ideas and turn it into a proper novel, then what I do is I run over what would happen in the story in my head. So for about 3 days, you'll find me wandering around, muttering to myself, saying, okay, let's see here. So she says she's Fae. Okay, what comes next? People are superstitious of her. They might think she's a witch. How does she explain her lack of magical powers? And it goes from there. What else I will do is I will actually act out in my head the entire story, character by character, line by line. I will usually say, okay, I'm going to be character X. And then how would I interact with my main character? How would I interact with Shakespeare? How would Shakespeare interact with me? This usually results in a lot of walking around with funny accents and multiple languages on occasion. My cat will get drawn into this, or I'll start using comic book noises. It's a bit dramatic, but if you don't know what I'm doing, a little bit crazy. But once I've run through the general story in my head, I usually have a pretty good idea of what I want to do with the story and where it's going to go. And then I can start writing. Okay. People who write with outlines have a very nice organized sense of I need a scene here, I need a scene there, and I need to make sure that this character does this continuously, or that these problems get solved, these subplots happen. Pantsers don't do that. What we do, or what I do at least, is I just write and write and write. So it takes me on average 3 months to get through a novel. This is with all of my other life distractions, like, you know, my dissertation, or classes, or cleaning, or eating, exercising, all of that stuff. So I will write the opening scenes, and then I just keep going. This can cause some problems. Usually about halfway through the book, I get very frustrated with my characters. I don't see where the story is going. I know how I want it to end, but I don't know how to get there. This is similar to the sagging middle syndrome that you might have heard about. My only trick to get through this is to keep writing. It may be terrible. What you come up with may have little bearing on where you want your story to end up, but you have to keep writing. As long as you can get something down, then you're good. So once I'm done with writing something down, basically what I've got is a very fleshed out outline. Okay, yes, I have a bunch of dialogue in there and it's fully drafted scenes, but it's a very almost minimalistic story. I'm usually lacking on 6 or 7 scenes, and there's a lot of dialogue and plot that needs to be changed. So what I do is I go back and edit a lot. Sometimes this involves a full rewrite, going from this outline that I've got and creating something completely new. Character names may change, character descriptions, scenes. The ending only happened a couple of times, but it has happened. And so this rewrite may take another 2 months, but I always make sure that I go through and fix everything that needs to be fixed with my first draft. And then I go and give it to the beta readers. Pantsing can be a lot of fun because you can see this very interesting thread in your story and follow it to somewhere you wouldn't have expected. So this magical time-traveling fae girl, she says, all right, great. Shakespeare, you need to change your plays a bit. And all of a sudden, the whole entire timeline of history has changed. What would happen? So maybe I wasn't expecting to do that at first. Who knows? But it's great fun. You can follow your characters where they'll take you. And yes, we do talk to our characters. They talk back sometimes. But just be aware, when you are a pantser, then you have a lot of work to do in the editing stage. The editing stage is where we have to make sure that our story is structured properly and that there are no plot holes, and that all the subplots get completed, and that the characters interact well. It's not nearly as structured as what you would get with someone who has created an outline, but a lot of that work that goes into the outline we don't have. So our first draft works as our outline, and our second draft works as our first draft if you were a planner. So what happens is you might have started out with a boy on a bike and ended up with Mermaid Wars. It's a very free-flowing way of thinking and way of writing. I wouldn't suggest this for work or school. They tend to like things that are very structured and not free-flowing and follow a formula. Pantsing does not follow a formula. If you are following a formula and you're pantsing, you might want to rethink your strategy. So I'm a pantser. I'm a fly by the seat of my tail end and see what happens sort of writer. But the trick is always to keep writing. If you're stuck, keep writing. If you have no idea what your character is going to say next, go have some tea and keep writing. This can be very difficult if you are not disciplined about getting words down on the page, but do it because it's worth it. Now, I'm not saying that plotting and pantsing one's better than the other. I'm just saying it's a very different way of going about writing. You can produce amazing novels either way. Whatever works for you, go ahead and do it. My tip is to just keep getting words on the page. Otherwise, why bother? So I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys do, whether you're a plotter or a pantser, and whether or not you get your ideas when you're brushing your teeth, or if maybe that's just me. Also, if anyone wants to use that Shakespeare time-traveling idea, go ahead. I have plans for my books and I really don't need 100 more ideas. So I will see you next time. Bye.